Product provided by Nintendo. Super Mario Odyssey is truly magnificent. Whether I was scaling the tall buildings of New Donk City or running down the hills of the Sand Kingdom in my poncho and sombrero, I couldn't help but smile throughout the whole game. The gameplay, music, visuals, and just game overall is filled with love and attention to detail that any gamer, whether you last played Mario on the NES or on the Wii U, will have something to smile about during this Odyssey. Like most Mario games, the story has some sort of new element to it, but the general narrative is that once again Bowser has kidnapped Princess Peach. In Super Mario Odyssey, Bowser is trying to marry Princess Peach, and so he kidnaps her along with the tiara that's sentient. This tiara's older brother is a hat named Cappy, who teams up with Mario to save both of the damsels in distress. Bowser, who is trying to plan his big wedding, goes from kingdom to kingdom all around the world stealing things that would be perfect for his wedding. A dress, a ring, a cake, the list goes on and on. Mario and Cappy spend the game going after Bowser, tracking his steps all around the world on a hat-themed spaceship called the Odyssey. This is a pretty old ship though, so you'll have to gather power moons from each of the kingdoms to continuously power the ship. You can think of these power moons as the traditional Mario stars. With Cappy at his side, or I guess technically on his head, Mario is able to capture different enemies, creatures, and inanimate objects to aid him on his journey. Super Mario Odyssey will take you on a 12 to 15 hour campaign that, despite still boiling down to save the princess once again, has some of the most profound and standout story moments in a 3D Mario game, outside of, let's say, Rosalina from Mario Galaxy. Characters are expressive and actually talk more than they usually do now. This is the most character and personality I've seen in a Mario game since Super Mario Sunshine's story. I didn't really expect to genuinely tear up a bit after beating the game and seeing some of the post-game content. That was definitely a first for me in a Mario game. If you played a 3D Mario platformer before, a lot of this will feel familiar in terms of the controls. Mario can jump, run, crouch, swim, just like any other 3D platformer he's been in. However, he has a few new tricks up his sleeve. Mario can roll now, and it looks a bit odd at first, but it's actually really fun to maneuver, especially for getting across a kingdom really quickly. With the help of Cappy, Mario gets a new suite of tools to use. For one, Mario can throw Cappy around to hurt enemies, activate switches, collect coins, or even act as a platform. The biggest tool that Cappy brings to the table though is being able to capture other creatures or even inanimate objects. In concept, the capture ability seems pretty simple. If you see a creature without a hat or something covering their head, try throwing Cappy at them and perhaps you can capture them. Sometimes you'll even see inanimate objects have a knob or something above them, hinting that you can capture them. Now, being able to control a Goomba or a Koopa is already pretty cool in itself, but when you account that each one of these creatures or objects play differently, giving you a new power that changes the gameplay, that's when capturing becomes really fun. You can capture multiple Goombas and have them stack up to reach really high places. Tanks will let you shoot down blocks or enemies from afar, and how could I forget, you can control a giant T-Rex that slams through pretty much anything in its path. Those are only some of the subtle and already known captures, but there's plenty in here that have yet to be revealed, at least officially. Touching back on the controls a bit, you can play the game with Joy-Cons separately, Joy-Cons on a grip, or with a Pro Controller. While all work completely fine throughout the game heavily suggests you try to play the game with Joy-Cons separately. Doing so opens up a few extra options in the game, like being able to control the direction of your cap throw. Certain captures also do different moves with motion controls too. For example, when a frog is captured, if you jump with motion controls, it jumps ever so slightly higher than a normal jump. I didn't really notice any scenarios where the difference in controls would make a big difference between me getting a collectible or not, but it's a difference I want to state just in case. Super Mario Odyssey returns to the open sandbox roots of games like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. While you won't have a Delfino Plaza or Princess Peach Castle like Hub World that connects all the sandboxes all together, you do get the Odyssey. It's a really big hat-themed spaceship that lets Mario and Cappy travel from kingdom to kingdom. These sandbox worlds are pretty big, and while each of them still has some sort of constant element to each of them, they still feel unique. Let's dive into the similar features as they're pretty basic gameplay mechanics. Every world has two types of coins, gold coins and then purple coins that are unique to each kingdom. Gold coins act as a currency at the Crazy Cap store. There you can use gold coins to buy new clothes as well as items like a power moon for each of the kingdoms and extra health bars. Gold coins also act as your lives, sort of. Every time you die, you lose 10 coins rather than a life like you would in other Mario games. My first impression of this was, wow, that's going to take a lot of the risk out of doing anything in this game. But then I started to think, that's 10 coins a life. That's precious money that I could be using to buy a shirtless Mario costume. I mean, any other costume you might be saving up for. It sounds pretty stupid when you say it out loud, but there were times where I did constantly die and think, dang, that's gonna put a dent in me buying that one costume I really want. So while there is a pretty minimal risk, it's not as big as in other Mario games and it's still relatively risk-free. Anyway, those are the gold coins. The purple coins are strictly just for purchasing costumes and cosmetics for your Odyssey ship. Each kingdom has their own type of purple coin that can be used to purchase stuff from the crazy cap in that kingdom. So the purple sand coins, for example, can be used to purchase clothes from the sand kingdom or Odyssey ship cosmetics from said kingdom, like a pyramid statue. As for platforming and puzzles in Odyssey, they're fun and clever to play through. Each kingdom throws puzzles and levels at you that make you use Cappy and your capture abilities in fun and interesting ways. One of the standout puzzles are the 2D sections that throw you into short but smile-inducing retro Mario platforming. The one sort of sour note throughout the gameplay were the boss fights. Introduction cutscenes would lead me to believe I was in for a crazy big boss fight, only to find a relatively easy and pretty short boss fight. It does improve later on in the game, but early parts were definitely a breeze. Now I did say that the campaign will last you about 12 to 15 hours depending on your skill level, but there's tons of post-game content for you to do. Collect extra power moons, some of which aren't even revealed until after you beat the game, go back and explore newly accessible parts of kingdoms you've already been to, and of course, buy tons of new costumes for Mario, some of which aren't unlocked until after you collect a certain amount of power moons too. To put it simply, you won't be done playing Super Mario Odyssey even after the credits roll. Super Mario Odyssey is a beautiful looking game on the Switch. In handheld mode, the game targets 720p 60 frames per second and 900p 60 in dock mode. This is the first time a 3D Mario platformer has been made in 60 FPS, and it feels fluid and smooth. That 60 FPS comes at a price though. NPCs, for example, render at 60 frames per second when they're near you, however they drop down to 30 frames per second when they're far, and at times are even replaced by 2D sprites instead of 3D models when they're far enough. Both dock and handheld mode use a type of dynamic resolution that fluctuates depending on the situation. In dock mode, the game ranges between 720p and 900p, usually hitting somewhere in the middle most of the time. In handheld mode though, that resolution can drop below 720p at times, looking much more softer than in dock mode. Now while the game hits 60 FPS about 99% of the time, there are some moments where the game will drop 1 to 4 frames, but it's hardly noticeable. Overall though, Super Mario Odyssey is a great looking game. It's incredibly charming and full of personality. Flashback to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in March. Seeing Link get cold in the snowy tundra and burn his tongue upon eating some spicy food, Link had never been so human before. The same can be said with Mario and Super Mario Odyssey. In the cold weather, Mario will begin to shiver, and in the hot sun he'll begin to sweat. He also feels more part of the world than he's ever been before. If he runs through the dirt, you'll actually see his clothes start to get dirty. The same can be said when he runs through smoke and in water. Just having Mario walk around the terrain, you can see his eyes wander around with curiosity. One of my favorite things to do with him is just have him do really funny, interesting things with inanimate objects, because you can actually take pictures in this game with the dedicated photo mode. You can change the angle, zoom in and out, position the camera any way you want. You can even add filters that make the game look like an older Nintendo game. It's a really intuitive camera system, and with the shareable feature on the Switch, you can easily share this to Facebook or Twitter, or just save it to your microSD card and put it on your computer. Now, outside of the core gameplay, you'll get beautifully animated cutscenes that are mostly rendered within the game. You can actually move the camera around during these scenes ever so slightly. Like I mentioned before with the story, Super Mario Odyssey is one of the more personality-filled Mario games I've ever played, and it truly does make Mario feel more human than before. He actually has a personality, and it breathes through the visuals on display. The same can be said with the audio design. Now, some of the most clever moments of audio design in this game are with the Easter eggs and references, so I'll keep quiet on that front. I don't want to really spoil anything for you guys. Just rest assured that there's a lot of clever nods and use of sound that play at the heartstrings of Mario gamers out there. Music, as most of the people out there who've already heard Jump Up Superstar will tell you, is great and incredibly catchy. You'll hear epic instrumentals, but also lyrical songs like Jump Up Superstar that I never thought would work in a Mario game, but not only does it works tremendously well. The HD rumble is also used in pretty clever ways. Controlling a small RC car feels great with the added HD rumble. It feels like you're really driving a car, but you'll even see it used in puzzles where the collectible item is hidden, and you can only discover it through the slight vibrations in your controller. Super Mario Odyssey is a gem of a video game that pushes the Nintendo Switch hardware to its limits, but also in return is a work of art. To say the game is perfect is a lie. There's flaws that come up through the hardware being pushed to its full potential. Those blemishes are hardly noticeable though when you're having non-stop fun for 12 to 15 hours in the main story. Not to mention there's a ton of post-game content for you to find, collect, and unlock even after the credits have rolled on the story. Super Mario Odyssey is fantastic, and it's only going to make choosing the game of the year this year even more difficult. Like most game reviewers out there, I usually beat the game I need to review it, and then quickly move on to the next game I need to work on. Super Mario Odyssey is a game I'm going to have trouble putting down despite my review of it being done. It's a game you have to play. That does it for my review of Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. If you have any questions about the game that I may have missed in my review, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below. If you enjoy these type of reviews, then consider subscribing. I do reviews on Nintendo Switch games, Xbox One, PS4, and PC, and I am working on Assassin's Creed Origins and Wolfenstein 2 at the moment. So you can look forward to those game reviews in the near future too. As always, thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.